Off.
Whew, 9, 8,
It went down.
7,
I'm like, I show 7.
5,
5. Coming soon. Fold that nonsense.
6. We're coming back. We're making a comeback. 7. Ugh. Yeah, the 8:30 is just for Steven.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, they hear Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Steve. Today I'm joined by this nerd. Nope, this nerd.
Nerdarchy said, how you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to see you, injured finger and all.
Yeah, so apparently there's definitely been some love out on social media. So thank you for those of you out there. But to hold it up, this is the thing that broke. Totally got my karma returned to me for the sword injuries that I've enacted upon others, including, in fact, 2 broken index fingers. So it took years to come back, but it finally hit.
How many screws you got there?
I got 2 pins. They're not quite screws.
Yeah. There's metal in your body that was not there before.
there is. So this past Wednesday, I went under the knife to, for them to surgically fix it, and then I'll have to go in for a post-op and figure out what the plan is. I don't know, under to have them remove it, or are they, I don't know. I didn't get and being I was in a bit of pain. I'm just like, all right, how can we get to the part where I'm not in pain? What do I got to do first? But we're not about that. We're here to talk about the D&D movie.
We are here to talk about the D&D movie, and not your finger that looks like it was run through a D&D scene itself. So I guess there might be some light spoilers. We're gonna show the trailer. We're gonna talk over it, no sound, because copyright and stuff like that. And then we're just going to talk about what we think of what we've seen so far and what we're hopeful for. So I don't anticipate there's going to be a lot of spoilers per se, but if that's a thing that people are worried about, I feel like I should give the heads up. All right, so let's let this thing rip and see how that goes. I should be playing momentarily. And honestly, having lived through the scars of 2000, I am pretty optimistic about what we see from this D&D movie so far.
Absolutely, there's a lot to kind of look at with all of these things, and I've got it running here, but I don't know where you're synced up to at the moment.
Yeah. So one of the main things is first of all, it starts with the displacer beast kind of leaping at you, which is super cool. I mean, it's a super iconic Dungeons and Dragons monster.
Happens to be my favorite.
Yeah, it's your favorite monster. It's a classic monster, and not only that though, WizKids is doing a release of classic D&D monsters, and that's one of them.
Yep.
So, that's super cool. And then we also get right away, we get that opening with the black dragon spewing acid. It's we've seen so many dragons that breathe fire. It was very cool to see the visuals on that black dragon just dumping acid all over the place.
I would concur.
Now, I've been watching a lot of different D&D commentators and people talk about it, and, with different levels of excitement. Like Shad from Shadversity is very much in the medieval fantasy, and I'm just gonna say D&D's not medieval fantasy anymore. I just feel like that ship has sailed a long time ago. It's a derivative of medieval fantasy at some point, but it's not that anymore.
I would agree. I look at the trailer. And just the last couple of seconds of what I'm seeing here, you go from the beast, the gelatinous cube, the mimic, and the dragon, all pretty much being down your face right at the 140 mark. That to me, it's all right. Here are these things that are so D&D. It's just kind of incredible. So I'm absolutely excited to see what is going to wind up happening here.
Are you bothered by the clothing and the armor? Because I know the purists really, really complain about that a lot. Shad was kind of going off, and I love Shad. Shad's great. I like his videos for different things, but he's definitely a purist, and he's going off about the cut of the coats and he hates studded leather because it's not a real thing.
Right.
So
I will never care about that stuff. Trust me, if you've ever seen the things that I wear, fashion is not something that is a concern in my life. But it's a scenario where seeing things that are oh, well, that's clearly this in D&D. I think the D&D nerds want to be able to stat the things that they're going to. Is that plate mail? Is that studded leather? Is that, is that a breastplate? Is that chainmail? Like, that's the things I think that they're going to be looking for. And I didn't break down what was in there because I've only watched it like half a dozen times.
Yeah.
But it's something that some people are going to, geek out over. We're nerds, and those who play D&D pretty much every aspect of nerddom that's out there, and there's plenty of crossover between those who play D&D and those who get into like Renaissance fashion and medieval fashion and that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's going to be people and say, well, I don't think this, I don't think that, without knowing more about what was done and why it was done. I'm certainly not going to offer any critiques, and I've got no leg to stand on. So.
Yeah, Chris, he is absolutely all about the brigantine armor. It's true. I know even like, I was just watching Professor Dungeon Master just put out a video a little while ago, and I watched that one, and he was talking about how the armies spread out. They're not close together. But in a D&D world, like where you've got magic users and wizards and spellcasters and dragons that have area effect breath weapons, maybe that fighting style, like maybe the formations don't make as much sense as they did in the real world. And this movie is taking place in Faerun, which is kind of has abundance of these things.
Yeah, I think you absolutely have to rethink your strategy when you're taking into an account the world that you live in. If the possible dragon retaliation or wizard fireball is a thing, like you might be concerned about these kinds of things, and the whole grouped formation might not be as necessary, like because it's far easier to have a couple spell slingers than it is to unload or load ballista and fire them. So I don't know.
I mean, even like if you think about our own D&D games, how often are we like spread out? Bro, you're all standing in a line. What are you doing? You're in lightning bolt formation, guys. Move.
Well, I mean, Dave, you and I have been gaming for over 30 years apiece, so like, I can recall that many times. When we're specifically looking at the battle grid and be like, oh man, that's a line effect there. Crap, move.
Yeah, I think Ryan's the worst for that. They're like, or I don't know if worst is the right word, or the most conscious of that of our group. Like he's always like calling that stuff out with the quickness. So big takeaways from the D&D trailer that I've seen that are kind of exciting to me. We get a displacer beast. We get a gelatinous cube. We see an owlbear. We see not one, but three different dragons. It looks like we have a red dragon, a black dragon, either a gold dragon or a statue that's animated into a dragon, which is very cool.
I wasn't certain what that one was because to me the scales looked white, but that definitely did not look like a white dragon.
No, but it seemed to be gilded with gold. But also, if like in the beginning of the trailer, you see they walk past that statue, so that's part of it too. Like and also like I am not, I don't think Ted is either huge Faerun buffs, right? Because we play homebrew mostly. So like all of this stuff that we know about Faerun is from us reading different novels, and I haven't read a novel from Faerun in like a decade at this point. And I had a terrible memory.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same ballpark. To me, like I know it's a small point, but I think a huge talking point from that 2.5 minute trailer. They went through, we need someone strong, we need someone that's magic, we need someone can do this, like, and they're assembling like the typical D&D party, and that's awesome. And I know like nowadays they say it doesn't matter, you don't need to have all the bases covered, but to the true D&Dism of putting all of that out there, that's awesome. Then, of course, like they go to the druid scene where she wild shapes into the owlbear. And of course, some of the D&D heads are like, wait a second, owlbear's in a monstrosity. You can't do that. Why are you doing that? you know, druids don't get polymorph. What the hell? Or
Yeah.
or whatever. But it's, to me, I'm like, number one,
Druids do get polymorph, but it still doesn't let you turn into an owlbear.
you know, but it's like that scene, number one,
Yeah.
absolutely stunning. You know, the quick transformation, like you slow it down and you watch, and it just balloons up into this, furry feathered, beast that just rips through. Utterly impressive.
Also, like, and you got to watch it really closely, but she starts off as the horse.
Uh-huh.
And you see, like, the bride, like, I never really see the horse, but I see, like, the bridle and stuff rip away.
Right.
And I was a little confused because then she mounted a horse afterwards.
Uh-huh. I was confused the first time I watched this. Like, did owlbear change, or did the horse do an owlbear, or was she on top of the horse and explode? Yeah. So I watched that section a couple of times. But like, awesome. And it makes you say, like, all right, well, what makes an owlbear? Like, if you look at the animals in the Avatar Last Airbender world, they're all those kind of crazy mishmash kind of things.
Yeah.
Normal thing in that world. So they're animals. There's nothing in the stat block of an owlbear that is entirely, magical or whatnot. So, like, to me, why can't a druid turn into an owlbear? I'm there for it. And I had a druid who was an Aarakocra that, like, was kind of like modeled off of the owlbear, and like that was all things that they cared about. So, like, kind of stuff. But
yeah, we're actually working on a video really based around that. And also, like it's things that we've talked about in previous videos as well, and brought up about certain monstrosities. And there's a very thin line between, fantasy creatures and monstrosities and real world creatures, right? Too. And even as we get, I just learned, like, that Australia used to have a bunch of giant animals, like a tortoise the size of a car. Giant animals, right? Like, and huge, like, the animals that we know from Australia, but like basically giant versions of them. So, so even in the real world, and we had dinosaurs and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know what is the real difference between a monstrosity and beast, especially when they don't have supernatural or magical abilities. But again, so the other things from the movie, right? We got a barbarian, a paladin, wizard or sorcerer, and a bard. And the bard is wearing the symbol of the harpers, so probably a harper.
Probably a harper. But I gotta say, like, the last little bit of explaining, what do you do? What do you do? And it's like, oh, he plays. And then that's strumming in the doorway. I was like, all right, they're still making fun of bards.
Yeah, so I know some people are a little upset with the idea of it's kind of more of a campy Guardians of the Galaxy meets fantasy, but like, I like all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So also, it's full disclosure, I just like to like things. So oftentimes things that people say are terrible movies, I really like Pacific Rim seems to get a lot of hate. And not only did I like the first one, but I like the second one, and also the animated series on Netflix as well. So
I'm right there with you, sir. I'm into all of that. I enjoyed the gamers, which there's a Mage's Musing kind of brought it up for response to Doug's comments, and about, like, it would be awesome to see like a after credit scene of the actors sitting around, like, RPing, like a post game situation.
So here's a couple of things that I've heard and then I've seen, in the trailer and different things that I've looked at. One is, like, the one place that they show a lot of is Revel's End, which is a prison in Icewind Dale, and it's in the Rime of the Frost Maiden. And the funny thing is, like, Chris Perkins was talking about, like, the movie people came out to Wizards of the Coast to ask questions, look around, and they wanted to know about a prison, and they didn't have one. So that's why they put that in Rime of the Frost Maiden. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like an Easter egg. I I did hear that Critical Role is going to make a cameo appearance.
Oh, nice.
So, who knows what that means? Like, people are talking about, like, wouldn't it be cool for, the post-credit scene or so, or at the end of the movie, for it to actually be them sitting around playing the game? Maybe it'll be Critical Role sitting around playing the game, and, it's instead of the actors, or maybe they're going to be NPCs in the movie. I don't know.
I mean, whatever way they do it, getting Critical Role on board, like that's only going to add further to the hype because of
right. That'll add like 60,000 people, 100,000 people will just go watch it, right? Just for that.
Well, I mean that'll be like the people that watch it opening weekend. When I look at the numbers that Critical Role brings in, like I don't ever watch Critical Role live because I don't like most of the time I'm gaming on Thursday nights.
Yeah.
When I go to look, in on it Monday afternoon when they uploaded it 3:00 our time, it usually gets, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of views that first day.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy of what their viewership is on YouTube, let alone, whatever their Twitch, live, viewership is. So
now I don't really remember where I saw that rumor, but I believe I saw it in more than one place. Also, there's supposed to be a cameo from the D&D cartoon characters. Wouldn't it be funny if they actually made Critical Role in the D&D cartoon characters?
That would be hysterical.
Travis is Bobby.
Looking at all the different possibilities to go in that situation would be hysterical, regardless of how they go about doing it. We'll just have to wait and see what that looks like. Do we have have they given a release date for when that's supposed to come out?
It's 2023. I don't know the exact date. So
we got a while to wait.
We do got a little while to wait. Like I've heard like some people complain about some of the CGI stuff, but my understanding is with that stuff, and I've only really learned this more recently, is they're constantly touching that stuff up until like the very end, just before they release it. So apparently that's something that they can continue to play with. But again, I mean, compared to the things that I've seen, so far what I've seen, it's been really good. So what do you think of the strategy of diving into the gelatinous cube to get away from another monster?
Well, I don't think diving into a gelatinous cube to get away from the displacer beast is a sound tactic.
What if we didn't see the part where they quaff the potions of acid resistance first?
Well, if that's the case, then sure.
Then they don't have to worry about suffocating to death. But in D&T, you can hold your breath for like 20 rounds. That's like forever. That's like a 4-hour fight.
4-hour fight for the,
We saw some iconic spells in there. At least, we saw maybe a Thunder Wave. We saw Misty Step. I think that might have been a Dimension Door.
I was gonna bring that one up because I wasn't certain exactly what was going on there.
Yeah.
Because it happened so quickly that it looked like she passed through the wall, and I'm like, I couldn't, despite watching it multiple times.
Yeah,
I didn't do like the rewind button or any of that kind of stuff. I'm like, was that showcasing any of like the real world to the fantasy world kind of thing, or was that a spell?
I think it was a spell. A lot of speculation says like that's a visual for Dimension Door. Maybe not. We definitely saw the shield spell go up.
Yep.
I think we saw people were calling it Magic Missile, but I don't think it was Magic Missile. I think it was I think maybe the caster is a sorcerer and they're twinning Ray of Frost. Because Magic Missile doesn't miss.
That is true.
And even if it was a shield, it would still hit the shield, and the shield would probably absorb it.
So with the with the shield spell, like it was a very cool visual, but that was a lot of fire coming in. So like, was that a fire bolt? Was that an Anagazar Scorcher? Was that some other spell? It wasn't Fireball because it didn't explode around.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, let's face it, they're gonna take some liberties, I'm sure.
Sure.
And it was also cool that a couple of the cast members are actually D&D players, and have been playing for a while. Michelle Rodriguez, I think she says she's been playing for years, as well as the actress that is playing the druid as well. And Michelle Rodriguez is, she's from our neck of the woods. She's from Jersey.
Oh, cool.
So,
I mean, I like the fact that that's, not only out there, but, people in the movie representing what it is that we do have an idea of what it is that they can really bring some of that aspect to it.
So also clearly we've gotten Red Wizards of Thay, right? That seems to be the big bads. And what is it? Tam? What is the? I always forget his name. The main one. Like I said, we don't really do much in Forgotten Realms. Something Tam.
I don't know.
It's on the tip of my tongue. Doug will say it in the chat if he's still listening, I'm sure. But yeah, so it looks like the Red Wizards of Thay are probably the big bads. I see people on the internet saying that horn is the horn of Orcus.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was gonna direct the conversation in that direction, which is something that was kind of like used in Critical Role, and like to me, the first time watching it's like, we unleashed the greatest evil this world has ever known, and I'm like, another Vecna reference, really? So Mage's Musing is thrown out there. It's Zaz Tam. I don't know if that's the
yeah.
Three people have said it now, including Doug.
Andrew doesn't think it's a very good looking one now. I don't really have an opinion on that thus far, but I don't know. Pale guy with tattoos and he looks like some kind of like scarification. They got the red robes going on. But yeah, the Horn of Orcus, that's kind of interesting in the sense that if that is indeed something that they're incorporating, that's not a D&D thing. That's a Critical Role thing.
So, that does, number one, it's a Critical Role thing. But what is the likelihood of them taking this story and either putting, another adventure or another supplement book incorporating these kind of elements? I think, that could be pretty interesting.
Like a druid subclass that can wild shape into an owlbear.
Possibly. I mean,
the whole movie is just a commercial for that book, so people will be like, "I want to be an owlbear."
Well, I mean, I'm here for it, man.
I don't know. I think a giant scorpion might be better than an owlbear anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, there's just something that's impressive about an owlbear,
It is a beloved monster.
I mean, when you start looking at things that are, pretty iconic to D&D. Like the things that jump to my mind, obviously the Beast, Mimic, Gelatinous Cube, which are all there in the, you've got Owlbear, you've already mentioned it. The only thing that I think is, in the top 5 for iconics, that's like not your typical everybody knows about it, is like are we going to see one of them too? Like, is that something that they've kind of been keeping, the lid on?
Well, also, some people are saying that the city in the Underdark they're showing is Menzoberranzan, so maybe Drow as well. Just walking around Menzoberranzan, who knows what you might see, right? Yeah. You might get a beholder vendor or something, right? Far better than the first D&D movie where they used beholders as just like guards, little guard dogs, essentially.
That was so sickening to me. Like, I watched the movie, and I watched it multiple times because there's some hilarity value to it. But like the things that movie did, like, it was almost making fun of the hobby and not like highlighting the greatness of what it is and what it can be. So
yeah, well, it is funny to see some people are like chomping at the bit for this movie, others not so much. I don't really know what to expect. Like if you just try and do like a hardcore epic fantasy movie, that is so much harder to do than something that I think that really um, speaks to D&D and what it is to play D&D. Because then it's kind of like Lord of the Rings. Sorry, sex bots.
Yeah, we jumped on it as quickly as we could.
Yeah.
I know it's one of those things that you do have to kind of be careful about, how you're walking that line. It's really difficult to come out of the gate and be like, look, this is not Lord of the Rings. How do we jump on it and make sure that,
Yeah.
happen or that doesn't happen? People aren't going to want people who play D&D, as much as we love Tolkien and love Lord of the Rings, you're not going to be able to make a direct correlation between the two, because in a fantasy world, the magic is much bigger in D&D than it is in Lord of the Rings. The average person is not going to get access to wizard or whatnot, whereas in D&D that can happen if you really push and try.
So Andrew says it seems everyone has a stat sheet pinned to their backs. Yeah, I think they're leaning into that a little bit. We'll have to see if they lean into it too hard or not. I know I'm going to watch it. It's what I want to see. D&D is now a very high magic setting, almost universally. So that's just part of it. Why I also very much enjoyed the original Conan movie, but after the first one, they really didn't get better. I must say, it's like the first one they kind of called lightning in a bottle, and then it was kind of downhill from there. Sure, still watch them because it's Conan, but
right, of course.
So
I kind of agree with that that sentiment. Whereas the Lord of the Rings trilogy. They captured an epic story. They did it really well. And then they tried to do it again with The Hobbit. And they took a book that's less than half the thickness of one of the trilogy and tried to make a whole trilogy out of it. And take away my nerd card, if you will. But the first Hobbit movie was so challenging for me to watch. I still haven't watched the other two.
Oh, really? I think I watched them.
It's on the docket to do.
Yeah.
We've gone and watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy with the kids. Now, it's time to show them The Hobbit. And, the wife with, all of her crafting hobbies and stuff that she's done, and me here gaming and streaming and whatever have you, she's watched them all in the past year. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I have to, can't have her having more nerd on her card than me, but it is what it is.
What did you think of the paladin? First of all, the paladin firing up the smite sword looked really awesome, but what did you think about the shooting sword?
I like the shooting sword. I didn't know exactly what that was supposed to be representing. So I
think it was just representing him having a magic sword that shoots. So
I'll take it.
I don't know. It was kind of done in Swords and Sword and Sorcerer. Okay. I don't know if you remember the tri-blade where it would shoot two of the three blades off. It's another 80s movie.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
But I like the sword that shoots the sword. That's kind of cool to me.
I could have maybe done without the sword that shoots the sword, but like I said, that's not enough for I'm not going to watch this movie. I can't believe they did that.
Well, there's hundreds of thousands of people out there that play D&D that want to watch this movie, and everybody has a different idea of what they want it to be. And unless you wind up, unless you can somehow read everyone's mind, there's no way to please everybody. it's just not really possible. So like if you're looking for every moment of the movie to perfectly satisfy all of your D&D movie needs, I'm sorry, it's probably not going to make it. You know, I love movies. I watch, quite a decent amount. And very few movies do I feel fall into the gap of this is a perfect movie. Do I think the D&D movie is going to nail it so much that it's going to be one of the few perfect movies that's out there? No. Is it going to be awesome? Yeah. But it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to get everything right.
Yeah. So Fire Axes, I don't want it to be a kids movie. I imagine it's going to be PG-13. Like, I can't imagine it being anything other than that, just because they're going to want to sell to as many tickets as possible. And also, like, if we're saying that the movie is kind of a commercial to bring people into D&D, they're going to want to bring in that younger audience to get them into D&D.
If you make it PG, you're going to turn a lot of people off. If you make it PG-13, it's just pushy enough to make people want to know what's the issue. Why do we have to rate it out?
Yeah.
So
it's they're going to go the Marvel movie route, kind of, right? They're not going to do R. It's not going to be an R. And even if it was an R for a D&D movie, what would they do? Like, language is one of the things in medieval. They could just make up curse words that aren't curse words.
Right.
So like that's not really a thing. It's going to be nudity and violence, right? And I would imagine that most heavily being violence for a rating. So which they're going to scale it all back. None of the deaths will probably be gruesome. And they'll probably still, like, people are gonna like get covered in acid and die, but you're not gonna see them melting.
Nature's Musing, yes, bring in the new blood, then we will convert them to OSR.
What is your OSR game of choice? I've only really played, I played a version of Swords and Wizardry, like a session at Gamehole Con, and then a couple sessions of Morkborg.
Right. I mean, I think it's going to be harder to convert, people into like, oh, watch the movie and then go find, the OSR rules. I think, if anybody's going to decide to pick up the hobby, they're probably going to get into the current rule set,
So ain't gonna be no RoboCop toxic waste scene, or about how about what was it? But the best part about the RoboCop movies was when they would show the commercials, the fake commercials, and one of them was where they just electrify someone in a car.
What about a glass steel chainmail bikini, Dave?
I don't think we're gonna see that. And glass steel is not a thing anymore, unless they bring it back. Could be. I mean, so far, from what I can see from the fight choreography, I enjoy what I've seen, the little bit I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the barbarian suplex to a power bomb was pretty sweet looking.
Yeah, I definitely dig what they've shown, but they're not showing a whole lot to me.
No,
I still feel like the owlbear is my biggest oh yeah scene of that fighting. So
yeah, and anyone who says the barbarian can't do that suplex thing, after I've seen Jet Li do that kick where he kicks with one leg and then he kicks with the other one, and you're like, oh, he's just vertical right now, and then stands up and it's like completely defies gravity. I think like nearly anything is possible after saying that, and it's like his signature move.
Well, I mean, that's the thing I think a lot of people don't always take into consideration is like adventurers are typically the people that have already proven that they're beyond normal capabilities. So when we do see those superhuman characteristics, yeah, totally gonna allow it. Describe it all you want, man. That's all you.
Let's face it, the party's got to be at least 9th level.
Why do you say that?
Minimum. How else do you wild shape into an owlbear? It's a challenge 3, man. Everybody knows that.
True.
So that is how I'm basing the level of the party off of.
I haven't gone so far to examine that kind of aspect.
Yeah.
Look at like the things that they've done, you know, like, oh, you know, we went and stole this powerful artifact for somebody and now we're
Oops.
gonna so yeah, let's you know, if they've already done something that cool, they should be, you know, they're not third level characters. You
Well,
know,
that's classic D&D anyway, right? Like the fetch quest, and it was actually they got tricked. The person that sent them to fetch is actually the real bad guy. Like this is all classic D&D stuff to me.
yeah, you gotta, you know, sometimes the person that is your go-to contact is the bad guy. Oops, sorry.
Is there anything that you're like you feel like absolutely needs to be in this movie for you to be satisfied that you haven't seen yet?
I don't, because I don't want to proclaim something, have it not be there, enjoy the movie, and then be called a hypocrite. Like,
Oh yeah,
like I'm like, I've enjoyed what I've seen. It inspires me to want to go watch the movie. It inspires me to hope that, you know, there is an actual product to go along with it. And then just, you know, give you you know, give you the enjoyment that you want out of a movie. You know, I do like the ideas of a post-credits screen of either those actors in like normal clothing sitting around a table or somebody else,
yeah,
you know, totally gender bend on the, oh, you know, the dude who's playing the bard is, you know, a kid, and the you know, the person playing the female druid is actually, you know, some big jock looking guy. You know, I think that, you know, those kind of things are fun, you know, to show that you can be somebody that is vastly different than who you are portraying.
yeah. Andrew, someone said it was a monstrosity and didn't count as a wild shape animal. Is this true? It is absolutely true, but who cares? It looks fun. That looks way more fun than the druid just turning into a regular bear. So for story reasons, I'm here for it. Doug wants to know: did the trailer give you any ideas for adventures in your own games?
I mean, I haven't watched it enough to extrapolate that kind of stuff. But my brain is in, like, today I've been thinking about blog posts and, you know, the other games that I have kind of coming up on the horizon. Right now I've got 2 sessions planned for this 12th. So it's going to be like that's got to take up a lot of my writing potential at the moment, as well.
Yeah.
D&D in a castle a month later. So
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's give me ideas so much as um I see a lot of things that we've done over the years at the table, right, in the movie, because I feel like they're just shared common experiences with D&D players. So I feel like they've done a good job of kind of extracting that stuff out and then injecting it into the movie. So it'll give people who play D&D and watch this movie that cool feeling of, you know, oh, that's something that's happened at my table or could happen at my table. I will say, in the Dungeon Craft video I was watching, Professor DM was like saying that he felt this was a make or break moment for D&D. And I don't know if I feel that way. I feel like if the movie does really good, it'll definitely push the hobby further. But I feel if it flops, I don't think it'll actually hurt the hobby.
yeah, I don't think that it's going to hurt anything. It's got the potential to help grow if it's legitimately done well, and that's what I'm really looking for.
I'm reading Brian Smith's comment. It better be stuffed with Easter eggs. People KO'd, eating a berry, and popping right back up, horribly maimed, and back to good after sleep, etc. I don't think we're gonna see that, but you know, why not?
One of the channels that I watch is Viva La Dirt League, and they did a whole thing about, you know, how ridiculous long rest is, and like their channel is grown by leaps and bounds over the years that I've been watching them. So like they do a whole thing like in full costume, in, you know, in kind of character, and the dude like is like I'm near death here. And like, yeah, sounds like you just need to sleep. It's like, yes, let's go back to the inn and we can rest for a week and this and that. And he's like, nah, we'll just set up camp right here. Why would we walk all the way back to town?
Yeah.
And like he wakes up, like the dude with the broken leg, is walking fine. His wound was like caving his chest open. He's fine. And he's just like, what the hell?
Oh, come on. Well, D&D is ridiculous like that. And I know that's why some people don't like the modern RPGs and modern D&D. They prefer more OSR style games, grittier, darker. And they can be fun too. I mean, just this weekend we played Shadow of the Demon Lord and we lost another character. This is how many sessions have we done? 5 now? 4?
So we just leveled up to 5. So we've played 5, we've played 5 sessions.
Yeah, and we've had 3 deaths so far.
Yeah.
And 2 of us are pretty reckless in the way we play. And we also nudge the rest of the party to be equally reckless. For better or worse.
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Come on. I think the outcomes have been a lot of fun, and we get great stories.
We do indeed, and since you're mentioning it, I'll hold up one of my show off items here. WizKids has a new set that's coming out, which has the nice, amazingly beautiful Neolithid. So I'll be doing a nice happy post about this bad boy. But that was what we fought as 4th level Shadow of the Demon Lords, a size 8, which is essentially a gargantuan monster in Shadow of the Demon Lord. Thing had 150 hit points, and it's like, oh my god, we're gonna die.
We had a clever plan. Well, I will say that is one of the things I like about OSR games, where it's far less about what's on your character sheet and more about how you can use what, either in your surroundings, what is on your character sheet. And it's open to a lot more interpretation.
Yes, as long as you've got, players, like not the characters, the players themselves who are, smart and willing to try things and at times
not afraid to die.
Willing to die. Then you can have those kind of things, happen and come up. And honestly, there were some of us who were like, all right, we're going to stay here at the back. And if things begin to go south, we're just going to go.
Yeah, that's right, Fire Axe. You just need a cunning plan. Also, we got the chant Dwarf Bomb, which, you
don't get to do that very often.
You don't get to do that very often. It's our signature move.
So since we're showing things off, we got some from the D&D people, since we're talking about it here. So during the Radiant Citadel, we got some copies to put on the giveaway shelf. So you can be on the lookout for that. So 2 weeks from today, we'll be announcing our next giveaway, and I've got some stuff pulled, but I forgot to actually have an off-air discussion with Dave as to whether we're doing that or something else. So you'll have to stay tuned to see exactly what that is.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen anything about this yet, but there's also a thing called the campaign case of creatures. So these are basically,
you gotta hold it a little bit higher.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
So this is a case of 64 weighted creature discs in 4 colors, 2 removable trays, 5 sheets of color creature clings, 1 storage folder, and a storage case. So you can kind of, put your stuff out there. So got to figure out exactly what we're doing with that, whether that's a giveaway or not. You'll have to stay tuned for, things in the future. But, yeah, that's my admin report.
Nice. You know what I say? I say give it away. But I give everything away. I hardly even. Someone tried giving me an RPG book this week, and I'm like, why don't you give it to someone who's going to use it? I'm just going to use. I have the PDF. I'm just going to use that. It's just easier. And also, I don't have other Shadow of the Demon Lord books. So I'm like, I would just have this one. I don't even have the main book yet. It feels weird to get a supplement book before getting the main book.
We got Jeremy from Erasmus Expeditions in the chat. How you doing, sir? Finger is healing slowly and whatnot.
Yeah, since the last time you see him, didn't you just see him a couple days ago?
I sat out Thursday.
Okay.
I was in. This was day after surgery and day after I had surgery and then fell, whacking my finger on a plastic footlocker.
Yeah, yeah. His son is secretly a kobold and set a trap for him cleverly.
So actually, I sat out from Thursday night's campaign. They gamed without me.
Yeah.
I've yet to get a after activity report, find out what they wound up doing without me. But hopefully, I will be able to be in better spirits and be able to join.
Yeah, well, and thanks to Wizards of the Coast for sending those to us. And, as Ted said, when we get those things, we put them in the giveaway pile. And if you belong to our newsletter or support us on Patreon, we're going to randomly generate a name every month and we give stuff to that people send us. But speaking of people that we like, Easy Roller Dice is another one of those, a sponsor of Nerdarchy, and you can find a link in the description as well as a promo code to get, I believe it's 25% off your first order. So
I think it's 20, but
it used to be 20. They gave us one for 25.
Oh, huh. My apologies.
Yeah. I thought it was 30, but it's only 25. So, but yes. So whether it's your first set of Easy Roller Dice or your 1 millionth set of dice, Easy Roller Dice for all your dice rolling needs. So you can go check that out and get the discount.
They got some great dice over there. One of my first of Easy Roller Dice is the kind of like coppery with the light blue numbers, and it's still one of my favorite sets of metal dice, so I dig it.
So do you have any of the characters from the D&D movie that look like might be your favorite?
Well, I mean, just based off of what I've seen so far, I'm digging the druid, but I'm majorly impressed with the owlbear scene. If I haven't made that clear enough in the last one.
Shad was ripping on her weapon.
Oh, I didn't
She's got a vambrace slingshot.
Now he's one to get into medieval weaponry, and there's some things that I'll agree with him on, and other things I won't. He's definitely bashed some stuff, and I'm like, sorry, you've got some knowledge, but you don't have all the knowledge.
There's only one thing you guys must duel with long swords at dawn.
Oh well, if he's gonna fight me, he's gonna win. You've been trying to set up fights for years. So
I don't think so. I think he's more of an academic.
You don't think he actually does it for real?
I'm not saying I don't think he has done it, but I think, and from watching his videos, it doesn't sound like he's currently doing it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm only several months back into it, so
yeah.
And currently on hiatus.
He didn't last very long.
But he goes he utterly hates the Klingon bat'leth.
Yeah.
I love Klingons, and they have their thing. And he talks about why would you the sword is already the iconic thing, but he's basing all of it on our world's physiology, our world biology. Klingons are built different. They are bigger, they are stronger, they have their own series of their own series of martial arts. So I don't know what would make them make the bat'leth over a sword. I mean, they've got a dagger that's built in the same style of a sword.
Yeah.
So with that design. So there must be something about them that makes them say
it looks cool.
Yes,
physics are physics, though. I think that's the point that Shad makes. But I am far from an expert on alien weaponry, for sure. But I do love when he makes fun of nunchucks, and he's like, "You'd be better off with a stick." Whether it's true or not, I don't care. It's funny. But also, I know nunchucks came from a threshing tool, and so it was easily concealed and passed off as just being a tool, and that's why it was adapted as a weapon.
Yeah, and a lot of things were like that. They were used as a weapon because of availability, not because they thought it was going to be a real thing. And when you watch some of the massive experts with nuns, it's freaking impressive. So like when Chad poo-poos those things.
Although every beginner always gets themselves in the nuts at least once.
I am not trying to put any kind of diss on Chad. I think his video is awesome. We've had him on the channel once or twice, so like cool dude, love a lot of his videos, but the negative on certain weapon types.
Yeah.
I might not have a leg to stand on and be able to put forth a solid argument, but I'm going to disagree with you.
That's fine. The internet is for arguing with people you don't know that well or don't know at all.
But like I don't need to, go through all of that. So like you ask me about any character stand out, any kind of things. Like, is there somebody that you are favoring within the D&D?
Well, I actually really like the Michelle Rodriguez as an actress. Like she always plays like kind of like that badass person anyway. So I've enjoyed her in other things. And I feel like the older I get, the more I like playing simpler characters like barbarians, where you're like, what do I have to think about? Whether I'm going to rage or not. So I do kind of dig that. Although lately I really do want to play an Echo Knight. And I kind of want to do the thing that we said that like this is the only reason why you would take the unarmed fighting feat is so you can hold somebody while your Echo beats them up.
Well, I mean, I used to go heavy on the martial characters, and I've gone on the other, prefer more spellcastery kind of things. That's just the direction I've tended to go as I've done more with gaming. Brimstone saying they'd like to see Elminster, but most likely Drizzt.
Yeah, we have a friend that absolutely hates Drizzt. I think
Drizzt.
I'm a bit Dritzed out myself, but
well, I mean, he's the stories as much as I like, R.A. Salvatore's books. He was one of my favorite authors for the longest time. The story didn't seem to be going anywhere. It didn't.
I know. We had him on the channel. We did a live chat with him, and I was like, no, I really like your stuff, but I actually like your non-Drizzt stuff a lot better. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm like, I made it through 17, 20 books or so with Drizzt, and I bowed. I couldn't do any more, man. He's like, I get it. He was such a cool guy to talk to. He was just a really good guy.
Brimstone, my loathing for Drizzt is well known among my group.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have no problem. I mean, there's a picture of Drizzt. I'm always going to pronounce it wrong because that's how it was introduced to me. But I got a picture that I got from a friend of Drizzt and Gwen, in the Underdark, and it's hanging on my wall in my basement, this way. And, it's an awesome piece of art. So I'm going to keep it there. It's just what it is. Am I reading, the stuff anymore? No. I read the book where he introduced 4th edition and the spell plague and what have you. And, spoiler alert for a book that came out 14 years ago. Like he basically, escorts Forgotten Realms through like 100 years over the course of one book. There's like 16 plus novels of whatnot of the characters adventuring together. And there's literally a line that's like, oh, and these 4 adventured together for 40 years. What the fuck? Pardon my French, but like, how do you just say these characters adventure for 40 years? Do you know what the rest of this crew did? Like, they found artifacts. That's what they did. Like, where are the new artifacts? Where are the new stuff?
So, Erasmus, I got burned out on how many clones I saw on the table. Oh my god, all the dual wielding scimitar and longsword fighters. Yeah, it's enough to make you puke. Like, if you've DM'd for a long time, and especially during 3rd edition, yes. I feel that in my soul.
So, but as much as I'm not there, like, if there's enough love for Drizzt and that in the movie as just a thing, and the people go nuts for it, great. if it turns out being a Drizzt movie, I'm probably gonna watch that too, because
For sure.
doesn't want to watch that, regardless of whether they put it as a new story or one of the stories that have already been written. There's plenty of stuff to work with.
And what about that red dragon, man? That thing was so chonky. Like,
That
I don't
red
know if I
dragon-
want to fight it. I would want to hug it. And look, if they don't make a plush of that, it's such a missed opportunity. Because that thing is amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, there's already been a plenty of D&D-esque plushes that are already out there, whether they're by third-party groups or WizKids or officially licensed stuff. As I mentioned, the creature curation stuff behind me. There's plenty of opportunity out there, and a big old chunky dragon. Why not get a new take on it and let them see these thick, massive, scaled creatures that are just gonna belch fire all over the place? I'm here for that too.
Well, that's just it too. Like, they show 3 dragons, and they're very different.
Mm-hmm.
So that part is super cool. And I was super impressed with that. Adult chonky dragon. It should be a new type. I actually think, like, I've seen it across the internet. Like, it's one of the famous dragons in Faerun. I just don't remember it off the top of my head.
All right, we gotta pose a question for Doug. Doug used to have a love for the Funko Pops. We need a Nerdarchy Dave Funko Pop with all his awesome shirts. So the question: would Doug get a Funko Pop of Nerdarchy Dave?
He doesn't do Funko Pops no more. Until they do Big Barda and Mr. Miracle, he is off Funko Pops. Everybody knows that.
Even if it was for Nerdarchy Dave?
I don't know if that's enough to break his boycott. Do you know Mr. Miracle is an award-winning something comic book? I've heard the rant a few times. Let's just say.
Well, I mean, I have a small handful of the Funko Pops. Things that I either received as gift or the ones that came with the E20 with the ampersand on it, and those ones I had to get just for the ampersand. But
Doug says it's enough. It's enough to break the boycott. Well, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
No, I don't think so either. But it's out there. If the people at Funko want to get a hold of us and get some Nerdarchy character pops, sure.
So Brian wants to know, who would you cast in a D&D movie to play Drizzt?
I am not great at casting. You'd have to be.
Yeah, I would just be like whoever the dude that played Legolas, but I don't know if he still looks like that in order to do it. I'm terrible at knowing actors' names, and it's escaping me at the moment. He was in the Pirates of the Caribbean. He's in a bunch of stuff.
I know who you're talking about. Names. Yeah. Drawing a blank for me as well.
It's got to be someone that's like extremely fit, but also really lean.
Yes.
To make it work. All the other stuff is just cosmetic, I think. Right. So that would be easy enough.
So Andrew Vella wouldn't mind seeing Artemis Centuri or at least Jarlaxle. I mean, Jarlaxle is...
I would prefer those over Drizzt, to be honest with you. I find them to be more interesting characters.
I would... Orlando Bloom, that's the actor's name. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Brian.
But, Brimstone says, somebody that's, unknown, that works as well. I mean, if you see a drow in a green cloak with a panther, or a pair of scimitars at his side, one of them with a blue gem, like it's gonna be obvious who that is.
Yeah. It'd be kind of cool for them to slip those characters in, kind of like on the DL, and just have them in the background as an Easter egg.
Easter egg, yeah. I think there was while I was kind of looking at the thing, there is a Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves trailer Easter egg that's like 19 minutes long. I have not watched plan on it.
I watched a few of them, and like I said, there's things on my list I didn't even bring up yet. There's it's believed that one of the characters has a bag of holding, and when they're walking into the city, someone's like done a zoom and enhance, and it looks like the face from the magic item.
Oh, nice.
One of the complaints, and I kind of get it, is like everything looks so clean in the movie, like everything's been swept before they show up, so it doesn't look like it doesn't in that way. It definitely doesn't look like a dirty medieval city. Maybe they'll add some of the dirt in later.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. There's plenty of options for plenty of potential, I should say, for where this can go. Only time was going to tell what that is going to look like.
I didn't even get into the controversy surrounding the Dungeons and Dragons movie poster.
Oh,
it's on my list as well. So
Stephen Whitehead wants to know, what about a Thimble Dwarf Pwent plushie?
Yeah. Only if it's spiky, like real spikes. So it hurts to hug it.
Thimbledorf Pwent is awesome.
They will be Drax, unfortunately, Brian, but I wish they were dogs. Ted will disagree.
What are you commenting
on? Brian wants to know, will kobolds be dogs or Drax?
Yeah, they're definitely, in the current idiom, they are draconian.
They are the inferior version.
Hey, I just go by what's there. I mean, if you pull out, kobolds ate my baby. They're not. Depends upon what rule set you want to play with. Or
what do they look like in Kobolds Ate My Baby?
Oh, they're like, furry doggy kind of.
So they're like AD&D kobolds.
Yeah.
That's the original.
It's the book.
Little dog people with scales and rat tails. And little tiny horns.
There's your kobold.
Yeah.
So
that doesn't scratch the itch for me either.
No, well, I mean,
I missed my first edition kobolds.
They had to do their their own artwork and try to be their own cutesy kind of thing. And Ninth Level Games has their own actual plushie thing that we had kind of joked about them running a game. Well, not joked, but I kind of talked to them about them running a game of Kobolds Ate My Baby on the channel.
Yeah.
They actually said that they could have their plushie actually be the voice and run the game on the channel.
That would be great. That would be great.
Yeah, I think set that up. But.
So I went out to lunch with Professor Dungeon Master last week, and we were talking about that a little bit. So he might be interested too. So we might be able to get that going on.
Yeah, I'm there for it. Kobolds Ate My Baby is a hilarious game, and
yeah,
it's one of those things that it's easy to die, and it's not a problem because you can make a character inside of 2 minutes. So come to the table with them ready to go, and
yeah. So the poster. What were you gonna say?
So eat some babies and some cats, and you're all good.
The poster does allude to an intellect devourer, which alludes to Illithid. So, but the controversy with the poster is they grabbed the image from the Pathfinder bestiary.
Oh, jeez.
And they've already moved away from it. But there's definitely a lot of really angry Pathfinder players about it, and they're hating on the movie based on that alone. But Pathfinder players a lot of times just seem to hate D&D anyway. They seem very angry about it. But I got bad news for you guys. We don't even think about you. Sorry. I have always just looked at Pathfinder as just another version of D&D. So, just like all the other versions of D&D, that one just happens to be made by a different company.
Yep.
So with that, we are a couple minutes past. With that, do we have anything else we need to go over? Do we cover all the business?
Yeah, we got session 11 of our Zoo Mafia game tomorrow evening, starting at 8:30.
Yeah, slightly later, and then we'll be back Friday for a lot. Pathfinder, I'm your father. I think it's the other way around by a lot, though. Oh, that's kind of funny. Yeah, we'll be back Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time for a live chat as well. We got a D&D podcast on. Last week we were supposed to have Jeremy from Black Magic Craft on, but he had to cancel on us. So we're going to reschedule that. We'll have him on. But with that, until next time, folks, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.